Welcome in. Today we're diving into the world of lathe and turning machine operation. You've shared some interesting stuff from RoleCatcher. Seems like you're thinking of making this your career, huh? So, let's break it down.
Yeah, it's a really cool field. Often misunderstood, I think.
Really?
Yeah, people hear machining and they picture, I don't know, like some old dusty shop, but it's so much more than that.
That's kind of what I was thinking. This RoleCatcher guide you sent, lathe and turning machine operator, the complete career guide really gets into it. So it's not just pushing buttons, is it?
No, not at all. It's funny you should say that. This guide actually, they emphasize the programming aspect.
Right.
Like you're the one telling these really sophisticated machines what to do.
Wow.
Yeah, it takes a lot of skill to make those precise cuts and adjustments, like you're sculpting, but with metal.
Sculpting with metal. I like that.
Yeah.
Sounds like you need a good eye and some serious problem-solving skills. I mean, what happens when something goes wrong?
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's actually a key point they bring up in this guide troubleshooting is like a major part of the job.
Makes sense.
Oh, yeah, you got to think on your feet, figure out what's up, and find a solution. And often, like, under pressure.
No kidding. So what's the environment like? The guide mentions earplugs, so I'm guessing it's not exactly quiet?
Yeah, it can be noisy, for sure, but it's
Hmm.
also really collaborative. You're working closely with engineers, other machinists, quality control. It's a team thing.
Okay.
And speaking of teamwork, you got to be able to communicate really well, too. You're reading blueprints, explaining issues, suggesting adjustments.
So not a job for someone who wants to just put their headphones on and ignore the world.
Right.
You need to be a people person on top of all the technical stuff.
Got it. So what's the job outlook like for this kind of role? I mean, is there even a demand?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, RoleCatcher actually, they point this out. The demand for skilled operators is like supposed to grow a lot in the next few years.
That's good to know. Yeah, industries like aerospace, automotive, manufacturing, they all need these parts made, and that's not going away anytime soon.
That is reassuring. Every job has its downsides, though, right? Did the guide mention any of those?
For sure. It can be physically demanding sometimes, and, there's the risk of repetitive motion injuries if you're not careful. Plus, you might have to be flexible with your hours,
How so?
overtime, shift work, that kind of thing. It's pretty common.
Okay, so it's not all sunshine and roses. But on the plus side, you're learning really valuable skills working on complex projects. And the job security seems pretty good, right?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Sounds like a solid field if you have the right personality for it.
Exactly, yeah. It's all about, finding what you're good at and what you like, right?
Yeah.
And speaking of being good at something, you got to be ready for that interview if you want to get the job. That's where that role catcher stuff you were talking about comes in.
Totally. They actually have like example interview questions for this exact role. It's super helpful. One that stuck out to me was about troubleshooting. They ask, can you describe a time you had to troubleshoot a problem with a machine? Seems like a question to see how you think on the spot.
Totally. And it's not just about like having a quick answer. It's about showing how you think. Did you freak out or stay calm? Did you actually try to figure it out step by step?
Hmm.
They want to know you can handle things when something unexpected happens.
Right, right. Like, can you be independent? Can you work with others to solve a problem?
Exactly.
It's like that other thing the guide mentioned, the blueprints. You have to understand those too. It's not enough to just run the machines.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
You got to be able to look at a technical drawing and like know how to use that information.
Exactly. That's something you can totally talk about in an interview, by the way. Like when they ask about a challenge you faced, talk about a time you had to figure out a really complicated blueprint so that the final product was perfect.
Oh, smart.
It shows you pay attention to detail and that you can actually use technical info to get things done.
It's all about connecting the dots, showing them what you bring to the table. So speaking of making connections, let's talk about that RoleCatcher platform. You said it could give job seekers an advantage. Tell me more about that.
Okay, so imagine this. You upload your resume, right? And this platform, it analyzes it and compares it to like real job descriptions.
Okay.
That's what RoleCatcher does. It helps you make your resume perfect for each job you apply for. It's like having someone like redo your resume just for that job.
Hold on, RoleCatcher is like my personal resume guy. Does it just fix the way it looks, or does it tell me to change stuff based on what the companies are looking for?
It does both. It like makes it look good so those computer systems don't throw it out right away.
Right, right.
But then it also like looks deeper. It checks out those keywords, the skills they want, even like how the job description sounds. Then it tells you what to change so your resume actually fits what they're looking for.
Yeah, and here's the really cool part. RoleCatcher has this thing where employers can find why. Wait, seriously, hold up. You're saying I don't even have to apply to everything myself. They could just find me. How?
Okay, so it's like an option you can pick, but basically, yeah, you create a profile, but it's like for employers who use RoleCatcher.
Huh.
They can search for people based on, certain skills, how much experience you have, even the software you know. So instead of being one resume out of 100, your name pops up when they're looking for someone exactly like you.
That's wild. Okay, so we talked about what it's like to actually be a lathe and turning machine operator, looked at how RoleCatcher can get you the job. But now I'm curious about, like, the future. With things like 3D printing, what happens to machining?
That's the big question, right? It's something this RoleCatcher guide actually talks about, too.
Really?
Yeah, and it's worth thinking about if you're in it for the long haul.
For sure.
People think 3D printing might replace machining completely,
Hmm.
but it's not that simple.
Interesting. So it's not like one or the other.
Right. They could actually, work together.
Also,
Think about it. You could have a prototype made with a 3D printer, but it still needs those, finishing touches, the precise cuts, those small details. That's where a machinist comes in.
oh,
Or you might have parts that are partly 3D printed, but then they need a machinist to make them perfect.
so it's more like 3D printing is changing things up, not getting rid of them.
Exactly. And that's what's so cool. This isn't some field that's stuck in the past. It's always changing, which means there's going to be jobs for people who can change with it.
So it's not just knowing the machines we have now, but being ready for whatever comes next.
Yep. It's for people who like to learn, who like working with their hands, who like the challenge of making something precise out of, like raw materials.
It's like art mixed with technical stuff.
Yeah, I like that.
And knowing that what you make is used in airplanes, medical devices, I mean, that's got to feel good.
Absolutely. It's real. You can actually see and touch what you create.
That's awesome. Well, there you have it. We covered what it takes to become a lathe and turning machine operator, how RoleCatcher can help you on that journey, even what the future might hold.
It's a field with a lot of potential, that's for sure.
No kidding. Maybe you'll be the one programming those futuristic 3D printers and lathes.
There you go. Combine passion with preparation, and the sky's the limit.
I love it. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. Until next time.